Got it.
Got it.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to this month's Land Down Under Hangout. This month was my pick. It was the third book in the Aurora series. It was Aurora's End, which you can kind of see with the... Yeah. I decided that I wanted us to actually finish a series. We read book 1 and 2 back in 2020, I want to say. I don't think it was last year.
No, last year you did book
because
2.
this was written. They started this, and I think you're right. 2020.
Yeah,
Aurora's
right?
End was
Yeah.
published in November of 2021. So yeah.
But the second one was definitely published in 2020. But
Yeah.
they must have we
a
must have
year-
done it in 2020.
Have a year break.
October 2020.
So that's when we did them.
That was the first one.
so we did the first 2 in 2020. The first book was Queen of Thick, and then the second book.
No, you guys did the second book last year while I was pregnant. That's why I didn't
did we?
read it.
Oh,
Oh, did we?
oh.
Ah.
But anyway,
Mystery.
What is time?
I wanted us to finish a series, which is why I picked this book. I'm going to go first with my first thoughts. When I first started reading it, I kind of regretted it because I was like, oh, I'm not really getting into this. Like, I don't know that I really love these characters. And it just took me a hot minute to remember that I really enjoyed reading these characters. Because it's been so long since I read book 1 and book 2, because the day book 2 came out, I got it and then smashed through it. Like, I read it all in like a day or two. And then, so I haven't picked it up since book 2 came out. And then I read this in like 3 days, the majority of it. I read like the first quarter to half in like a month. And then the last 3 days, I've just read the rest. Most of it, which was today. So thanks to an audio. I enjoyed it. Once I got into it, I'm glad that I picked it. And I, while it wasn't perfect, I enjoyed where the characters went, and yeah, I enjoyed it. G, you first. What did you?
Yes, pretty much a lot of the same kind of thoughts. Like, it was 2020 since I read the last one, so it was a while ago now, and it took me a minute to remember that I enjoyed this series a lot. The beginning, I'm really glad that intro had a good breakdown of what happened in previous books, thank goodness, because it kind of jogged it a little bit, but I still kind of, I don't know, I felt weird getting into it and knowing that I'd liked it previously and was not enjoying the beginning, and was feeling disappointed that I was not enjoying it as much as I wanted to. But it got better and better and better. So
Yes, 100%.
Although there were still bits that I rolled my eyes at right at the end. So yeah, still a solid. I think it's four star for me still.
Karina.
So I never finished the second book. I have tried repeatedly to pick it back up. And so I think I was like 2/3 of the way through the second book, and I tried to pick it back up like several months later at that 2/3 point and just couldn't. And then I put it aside again. And then I went back to it and I tried to like skim read up to where I'd gotten up to and got stuck again. And so when I knew that we were going to read the third book, I tried to pick up the second one again and just could not. And so I just skipped it and relied on the fact that I had read 2/3 of the previous book, and that previously on section at the start of this book. And I'm really glad that I did, because I don't feel like I really missed anything from the second book. And I really, really enjoyed this. So I am glad that I actually persevered with the series, because I was worried that I wasn't going to, and that would have been really sad, because Kristoff is one of my favorite authors. I think Amie Kaufman might be my issue, because I've never had that issue with a Kristoff solo, but I have had that issue with getting stuck in this series and with the other series that they did together, the Illuminate books. I had that same problem with those as well. So I think it might be Amie Kaufman is my problem. No offense to Amie Kaufman, just not my thing. So I really
It's because
enjoyed
Amie
this.
Kaufman's definitely watching.
Yeah, right.
Well, you know,
Okay.
Australian book
Obviously.
club.
It's not out of
Booking
the
authors.
question.
There are definitely characters that I enjoyed listening to more than others because I listened to this rather than actually reading it. I listened to this in the space of 5 days, which I'm really proud of. And there are definitely characters I like better than others and sections that I like better than others. Like G, I had a problem with particular things right at the very end of the book, which we'll talk about later. But like G, I also agree. I think it's probably 4 stars. So yeah.
Kirsten.
I'm first of all warning my internet is really bad, so if I get all breaking up, that's why. I quite enjoyed it. I had forgotten, I reckon, most of the other books by the time I got to this, so I was like, thank God for that bit at the beginning, because I was going, I don't have the time or the mental energy to reread the other two. So that was really good because it did jog my memory for most things, but it still took me, I think you said the same thing, G, it still took me a while to get into it. And I think part of it was I had to reconnect with the characters, and having the little, this is where they were up to, was good for the plot. But for me, I needed to have that connection to the characters before I started enjoying it. So I probably didn't really get into it until about, I'd read it, I don't know, probably a third or a quarter. But yeah, I did enjoy it. I'll probably talk a little bit more later, but otherwise, yeah, it was good.
Sarah.
I thought it was okay, and I know the reasons for that, and we can get into that. I think there was inconsistency in the plot lines. The only plot line I really cared about was the time loop one, which is also speaking to things that I love. I love time loop stories. I just love them. I love anything, and I thought it was really well done.
Same.
I love the arcs within them. The characters are great. There's good conflict and working together to solve a problem. And the new character Neri was really great as well. So that was awesome. And then the other 2 stories, I have to kind of remind myself this is a young adult book at the heart. So I have to kind of go, it is what it is, but and I think I also have to be forgiving somewhat to the authors that they wrote this. They both live in Melbourne. They wrote this in frickin' God knows how much lockdown. Things were pretty tough. And I think that they knew their arcs going into this, they knew where they were going right through it, and that's evident, which is good to plan it out. But I do think this did suffer from them being a lockdown. They couldn't probably work on it as collaboratively if they would have liked. They're probably trying to hit the deadlines that their publishers still had for them. But I think that also needs to be a level that I need to kind of just give them a bit of grace about, if that makes sense.
Actually, that's a really good point. I hadn't thought of that because I know that Jay delayed Empire of the Vampire because he was so overwhelmed with trying to get stuff finished, like other stuff finished in time, and this was probably part of that reason.
And they're probably going through a lot of mental stuff, considering what poor Melbourne was going through. So
Amie Kaufman also has a young child. So
and he mentioned that in his thank you, saying she was going, there was just so much going on with the 2 of them. So as much as I'm like, it's okay, I'm also trying to give them grace because honestly, well done. I didn't accomplish anything in lockdown, so well done to them. They got out novels. So yeah, but I'm looking forward to getting into the character arcs. I must say thank you to both Elizabeth and Bobby, who I spoke to a morning to, who just said, you're allowed to skim the bits you don't like. I'm like, oh good, thank you for the permission, because I was really struggling. So yeah, that's where I'm at.
Elizabeth.
Okay, so it has been so everyone is like, it's been a while since I read the second book, and it took me a while to warm up to the third. And I'm like, it's been a while since I read the third book, and it's going to take me a while to warm up tonight, because I read it back in February. Read it back in February, did not get a chance to reread before tonight. So if I'm a little rusty, I apologize. I generally enjoyed it. Like, it's a good fun adventure. I think it lacked depth in a lot of places. Although there were a couple of elements that I thought they did really well. And yeah, had some issues with the ending too. So I look forward to getting into that.
Do you mean the 1 year later ending or Aurora's last chapter?
Oh, now you're asking me questions where I cannot remember that far back.
Like, which is which? It's all one thing.
So once people start talking about it, I'm sure
Yeah.
it'll start to come back to me. But yeah, I suspect I mean like the climax of the plot, not the like
The 1 year later.
Yeah.
1
Not
year
the
later.
coda.
Conclusion.
Not the prologue, yeah.
Yeah. Oh.
Well, since a lot of us have mentioned the last chapter and how we may have had some problems with said last chapter, would we like to discuss how we felt about that last chapter, since it kind of was trying to bring the story together? And I emphasize the trying.
I loved it. Loved it.
Gee, coming out with some strong opinions there.
No. I did not love it. I was emphasizing the love.
good.
The love.
I wasn't sure. Sometimes it's hard to read sarcasm on the internet.
I have love blur written down on my notes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it just felt really cheesy.
It
Yeah.
was really
To be like-
cheesy.
There are so many different types of love, and I have my attachments to all these people, and I'm going to give my attachments away. And I'm like, "Ugh."
Yeah. The weird thing was, I actually know what they were going for, or I felt like, I don't know, but I felt like there was some
Didn't
really
quite
good.
make it.
No, because I don't think they had the time to really think through what they want to do, which is actually what we talked about in the first two, which was we talked about someone help me with pronunciations who's done it. Karina, Ishvaran?
Eshvaran.
Ishvaran.
Eshvaran, that's the one.
Eshvaran.
Yep. And the other guys were called
The Raham?
the Rahan, right?
Uh-huh.
And I remember we talked about this back in the first two, which is, are they the two sides of the same coin? And I felt like there was like parts of that coming through in the theme, but it didn't really like, oh, we actually want to be connected to everyone, but still have our individual. So we like, it was kind of there, but hadn't, yeah. And then of course, my problem was I really don't like Aurora. So
Neither.
because she's the
as well,
one
Sarah?
narrating that part.
Did you do audio?
No, that's why I was asking Karina how to pronounce them, because I know she did that.
Because Aurora's voice in the audio.
Oh my god, she's so airy fairy and fucking annoying.
It's like
That
sickly
sounds-
sweet. It's
Yeah.
Sounds about right though, because that's what I got from the physical, like reading the book. That's kind of how I saw it in my head. But
Oh God. Yeah.
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 But then when she drops into the like, there was a boy and he was taking a step and all that shit, that I was like, my God, can you just tell the story, please, instead of just turning it into this weird tense, like, it just really pissed me off.
Also, like
Pacing.
this, like, stop.
Yeah. And look, that, like, I know we
And
talked
it
about the
looks-
last chapter,
And it
but
does.
that-
Like, why? What? Why?
yeah.
I
Yeah,
know you're
it's-
going for like the ethereal, she's ascended, she's seeing everything thing,
Mm,
but it was just too much
yeah,
and it dragged.
it did. And I think that's my problem with the Aurora and Cal storylines was pacing. It was
Yeah.
it felt incredible. That entire storyline felt incredibly drawn out. And those were the bits I was rushing through, because I was just
And I
like,
think
I don't
that's where I got
care.
stuck in the second book, because I'm
Mm.
pretty sure I was stuck
Yeah.
in a cow chapter in the second book that I just couldn't get past.
Yeah, makes sense.
where
Makes
she went
sense.
into the headspace thing,
Mm.
learning her skills and that.
Yeah,
Oh,
I
that
did not
makes
enjoy that
sense.
either.
Yeah.
Which was a shame because, like, in the first book, they set up the relationship really well.
Yeah.
I know.
Yeah, but there was conflict, and then they've resolved that, and we need
And
some
Cal
still
just
butting of
seemed
heads.
Cal seemed like half a character for this whole book. Like
Yes,
he wasn't
I'm
even
totally
with
there.
Totally with you. Why was he there except for some kind of weird conflict with his father, who I also was like, why are you in this?
I kept expecting him to die, like
Well, just
the whole way through.
That's what I didn't get at the very end. Did his dad die at the end? Like, did he
Yes.
let himself?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
I was like,
yeah, he sacrificed
He shuttered
himself.
in
he did
the-
like let
I
himself be
also didn't
absorbed
find
into
super
the like.
convincing.
Yeah,
What
it
was
just
it, Elizabeth?
I didn't find his change of heart super convincing.
No,
And that was
no,
one
nor
of my
did I.
key issues with the
It
ending.
wasn't
Like, I was just
about
like,
love.
we
It
didn't
was
get enough
never that.
second guessing. We didn't get enough second guessing. We didn't get enough of
no,
like
it just
there was
felt
no,
like it was
Yeah.
about. I don't want to lose.
Yeah.
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 Yeah,
But
he
it-
spent so long going on about how is this Dothraki warlord, hate, and then all of
Oh.
a sudden you're like, oh, I'm going to sacrifice myself for the greater good.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
What?
yeah,
Hang on, where? Why?
it wasn't
Huh?
convincing.
No, it was just, yeah. So yeah, I'm totally with you guys. Oh,
Good morning.
is that baby?
Yeah, that's a baby.
Yeah, a little bit.
Sorry.
I didn't know if Aurelia had
my dog,
opinions
I'll be
too.
2
It
seconds.
sounded like she did.
She's tired of someone almost calling her Aurora all day.
See it.
Yeah.
I mentioned this in morning tea to Elizabeth. The other thing I hated about the Cal and there was so much I hated about Cal and Aurora, but the whole time he's calling him his Bechamel. I kept thinking bechamel.
Bechamel. Yeah.
Every time I read the word,
My bechamel.
every time. My bechamel.
My bechamel sauce.
Yum.
Let me have you on my lasagna.
I love bechamel.
And creamy pasta sauce, delicious.
But to be fair, like Cal was one of my favorite characters in the first and second book. Like, and then it kind of, like you said, it kind of felt like they watered him down as the books went on.
He became like a cardboard cutout in this one.
Yeah.
Like,
He was Riley. He was Riley in this book. He was there
Riley?
to just be the boyfriend.
Buffy.
Yeah, he totally was. Because
He
in
was
the
there to be the
first and second
boyfriend.
book, there was such exciting, but there was interesting
There was
conflict
all these
between
opportunities
what he'd
to
been
do
taught
really
versus his mother,
interesting
and then
things, and it just
gone.
felt like they just turned him into this like, I'm here to support you.
Yeah.
I'm here for you. I breathe for you. I'm like,
I'm gonna die soon.
Holy shit, he's a manic pixie fairy man.
he's a manic pixie dream boy.
Yeah,
Yes.
Dream Boy, thank you. That's what he is. He's here to help her go through her transition, and that's all he's there for.
To love her.
Yeah.
Like, and I'm just like, no, like there was like he was my favorite character in book one, and like his story from book one, I was like, I smashed book two because I was like, no, he's my favorite character. What are you doing? What are you doing? What are you doing? Why?
Yeah.
Why? Oh,
That is such a rich story, that whole family. Like I got
Yeah.
heaps from his sister. What's her face?
Sadie.
Sadie ended up being
Sadie?
like one of my
Sadie,
favorite.
sorry.
Yeah, it's Sadie apparently. I was like, I'm
Yeah.
pretty sure it's Sadie because they're both Australian and it's a cleaning lady reference. Whatever.
Yeah, I guessed.
Yeah, audiobook said Sadie. And she ended up being like unexpectedly one of my favorite characters. I'm like, but your brother is such a wet blanket now. What happened?
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, I
feel
love
like
it.
all of the like spunkiness that he had in book one, because
She
they were
got.
trying to just
Mm.
make him Aurora support person, they had to give it to someone else, and that's why
Yeah.
they gave her more of a
If
part.
they had imbued what was happening with him in book one, as far as the conflict he had within him about how he'd been brought up and his two parents, into this relationship with his father, I kept thinking Caesar because it looked like Caesar. I presume that was a play on Caesar. Cezanne, I'm not sure how his father's name is
Yeah.
pronounced. If they brought more of that in, so there was more of a push and pull and a kind of the callbacks, instead of being kind of like, you know, I see, like, what was Aurora going? I see him in a time, you know, there's a kid on the floor. I'm like, what if that was spoken out loud by him to his father? That would be better. You know, it's just like, but like that would have made, if they'd brought more of that in and more of that, like sown more of that self-doubt with Suzanne, then I would have believed the sacrifice. But we didn't have that. It was just all.
No, because the whole entire time he was like, no, I'm not broken. I will win. But like the whole, every time she kept bringing something up or going through another vision, his response was, I'm not broken. I will win. I
will breed.
Yeah.
Yeah. But that's,
and then suddenly,
why is Cal there if not to be the prompt for his father?
Yeah,
this
that's
is
what I mean.
Like,
it was so strong of like no change, and then suddenly he was
but
like,
why
no,
is
give up my
Aurora
life.
the one challenging him? It should have been Cat. Like, this is the thing. Like, why have a three-way relationship in the plot line if you're not going to do things? It was right there, and that's why I kind of have to feel like I do have to give them grace, because it felt like that storyline hadn't been thought through. It was rushed. And then the action sequences and it was so drawn out. I was just like, oh my God, Jesus Christ, die already.
The words on single pages. I'm like, it did not need to be like this. It didn't need to hurt me like this, friends. But like going from something
like what you said, I think it was G that said, sorry, I'm probably cutting people off because my
we're
out of sync. I was just going to say, in comparison to that, I think it was G that was saying that about the timeline, Oh no, it might have been you, Sarah, said about the time loop stuff. That was really, really fun, and the action in that was really
so
when
good.
I was at those bits, I was like page turning, and then we went back to them, and I was like, oh, this again.
Snooze fest.
Just on I was just going to say, going on to something that a lot of us seem to enjoy, the time loop story with Finian and Scarlett and Zilla, and just their growing, not just the relationship obviously between Scarlett and Finian, but like the relationship between the three of them, getting to know Nilla, how do I say her name?
I say Nari, but I don't know if that's right. Nari?
I said it as Nari.
Nari?
Yeah. I said Nari like Nari.
But like them going through this time loop and slowly building trust with this person, and like I cried when Zilla said she had to stay. Like, no, Zilla.
But I thought it was such a beautiful, I cried too.
Oh, no.
But also the arc was beautifully put together and constructed and came, and I was like, this is beautifully done. And I can see what you set up from
came together really well. Yes. And it just kind of like, I felt like that storyline was a lot more thought out. I feel like the Tyler storyline and the Aurora storyline just felt a little empty in comparison. Like
absolutely,
their time loop story felt really full and vibrant, and like I knew what was going on. Whereas like sometimes in the Tyler section or in the Aurora section, I'm like, wait, what's going on? What are we doing? Who are we talking to? What? And I don't know. It's just that I was more invested in those characters.
I think I talked a little bit about this at morning tea with Elizabeth. Elizabeth's heard me because I had to have a bitch about this because I was a lot further on than you guys were. I think it's because it was, and Elizabeth agreed with me, like it's nothing like a heist. This is a heist story, right? Like that's a heist storyline. They're pulling off a heist. And you've got different characters who are coming in with their different skill sets, and they have to work together collaboratively to get the job done. That is something that it's a great trope. It works well. You can set up around that structure. I had something else to say, but I've forgotten how brilliant it would be. No, it was a heist, and I think that's what works so well. Anyway, I'll come back to it, but yeah. Anyway, sorry. I just want to say it was a heist, and I love a heist. It's a time heist. Love a heist.
Do love a good heist.
Where was the third founder, the Betruscan, and why was it not Finn? Did anyone else think it was going to be Finn the whole time who was going to stay behind?
I think I was confused about that because they never really brought it up. Like,
No.
who is the other founder? And that was, I don't know if we were just not supposed to know that, but like.
They did say that it was the leader of that him and Kim, actually, Nari Kim, so he was the leader of the other army and they did a treaty together. Right. But I expected the entire time that it was going to be Finn who would have to stay. And it was Finn who was the founder.
Oh, interesting.
Do you think you possibly felt that way because he's on the cover of the third book? And now
Maybe.
I'm like, why is he on the cover? Because of all the characters you could have chosen, I'm not really sure why he's the cover.
I reckon it's they wanted someone that looked not human and different, and they were like this because I mean, to be fair, that the authors don't always get a huge amount of say in what goes on
That's
the
true.
cover of the publisher.
Yeah, that's true.
So it could have just been the publisher going, "This is going to look cool." And
I thought Finian was going to get taken over by the Raham. That's from the cover. I was like, no, Finian, we're going to lose him too.
No, I mean, that's like within his character description. Like, because the Etruscans have difficulty with light being an underground species.
Yeah. I more meant because the front cover has him like surrounded by stuff. I thought he was going to get taken by the Raham.
Whereas actually their plotline has very little to do with them at all.
Like
so it's just kind of
pretty
cool.
much sees very little of them the whole way through the story. It's great.
Yeah. Oh, I remembered what else I was going to say about that storyline and why I think it works so well is it's a perfect mixture, which is building on the heist thing, is it's a perfect mixture of plot, like we have a problem, so we have to move through it, and the characters are also developing and having their arcs within it, and they both influence one another. Whereas I feel like the Tyler storyline, and I think Naomi, you said something before. This is exactly what I'm about to say. Naomi, I think you hit the nail on the head before where you said when you're in the other plot lines, you're going, where are we going? What's going on? What's happening? In the heist storyline, you know exactly what the objective is. You know exactly what they need to do. You know exactly and they don't do the whole thing. It's just it's this bit and then we'll work the rest out. And then it's this bit and we'll work. It's kind of like, oh, I'm on track where they are. I know what the next impediment is. They've got to get past it. It's almost a video game like, right? Whereas with Tyler, I'm like going, so what? He's got to get through the ship and then he's got to figure out how to get himself to Aurora Station. And then when he's like, there was too many bits.
The thing is, like, I feel like in Scarlet, Finian, and Zella's chapters, we got a lot of their thought process, but in Tyler's chapter, it felt like stuff was just happening. We didn't get a lot of his like thought process of, I think that this person's going to sell me out and I'm going to get arrested by, like we didn't get.
Does Tyler have those thought processes?
No, he just listened to Aurora shouting back in time and knew he had to do something apparently.
You know what I mean? Like I felt like stuff was just happening to him, whereas in that time loop storyline, I felt like we got a lot more thought about what people were doing and what they were trying to there was
so you're talking about present Tyler.
Yes.
Future Tyler. I loved.
I mean like
Tyler.
Present Tyler, the Tyler that was like doing all those early chapters. It just felt like stuff was just happening. It didn't feel like it was being told from his mind with any of his thoughts in it.
Yeah.
It just
we were stuck. I think you hit the nail on the head. It was like plot-driven narrative versus character-driven narrative. We had a beautiful mix of both of them within the time heist, but with it, it's like going, so this is like, we've got a character, but it's only them. Huh? Yeah. At least we got a sexy time a bit with Tyler.
I was just about to say, I quite enjoyed his interactions with Sadie, but once she was gone, I was like, okay, when's she coming back?
Yes.
Yeah.
Were we supposed to be, was the thing with the daughter supposed to be a big reveal? Because it was clearly obvious.
Obvious. I know, but I did have to remind myself it's a young adult book, but I don't know if that means that I'm not giving young people enough credit for smelling that from a mile off. I don't know. I don't know if it's just we've read a lot of
those characters.
the audience is meant to figure it out early, and it's the other characters that don't know, because I was like,
yeah, because we knew about him and Sadie, and they didn't at all at that stage. So yeah. And they
There
thought
was all they
Sadie
could have
would
done with
never, would never.
Yeah. And again, like if it's a reveal for your character, if it was a reveal for Cezanne to actually have kind of an epiphany, kind of like they did not use it at all. And it was, again, a wasted opportunity. If we knew and the reveal was supposed to create some character motivation, it didn't. Like, I think Cezanne went to the grave not knowing. I can't remember because it was so glossed over. You did?
Yeah, she went, look at her.
Yeah.
It was such a not, that's right. That's right.
But it was, right at
but
the
not
end.
big enough. Not big enough.
That felt really rushed.
Yeah, it did.
I was just gonna go back to the time loop thing for a minute, because there was one issue I had there. And that is we get the first same-sex relationship from Kaufman and Kristoff in this book that they've ever done, and it mostly happens off screen, and I found that quite disappointing.
I do think part of that is just that Zilla is not a very, like, the young version of Zilla is not a person that is very like touchy-feely sort of thing. So I think part of it will be that.
Get that, but like choices are made there, I just feel like there was a disservice done, and
I've never thought about that, because like he has same-sex relationships in his other books that he's written by himself. So that's interesting. I hadn't actually picked up on that.
Yeah, because he has same-sex relationships in his
in Nevernight and in Empire of the Vampire.
Yeah, I know what you're saying, Elizabeth, and I actually, if two things can be true at once, I agree with you, but I also think it's the right thing for the character to develop the love in the past, like in the past with Neri. Like, we wouldn't see that because it's not part of the storyline. So character-wise, I think it makes sense. But I also agree with you, because we've followed 3 couples, all heterosexual, interspecies, but like,
and I think we might have actually seen a bit more of it than other characters in there, because we were in Scarlett's mind a lot, and Scarlett picked up on that a lot, and we were in Zila's mind a lot, so we got the inside scoop on that, if you will. I think the character, was very, very like private and understated, I think.
Like, I did think, I was actually reflecting on it. This is completely separate, but I was actually reflecting during the whole Kat and Tyler bit on the station. I was kind of reflecting on Scarlett and Kat being best friends. Like, why? I was like, oh man, maybe they should have been lovers. I do remember just thinking that, going, why did it have to be Tyler, and why did Scarlett have to get together with Fit? Like, I do remember thinking there's a friendship that could have been a very meaningful relationship between Scarlett and Kat, because they painted Scarlett also as a very, as a very, out there.
She was
doesn't really
a very
care what anybody.
person.
Yeah, and anyway, so I do remember thinking, like,
I did think that as well in the first book, like that. While yes, she has a lot of boyfriends, there's nothing saying that she wouldn't be interested in her, like.
Yeah, and that maybe she's
it's
having a lot of boyfriends and none of them are fulfilling, because maybe she actually needs to be with the ladies.
No, it's because none of them are Finian. They're beautiful. Stop it.
Her character arc from the beginning to the end was probably the best, like the most.
I did really enjoy how she like went from, I'm a ditzy, I'm just here because my brother's here kind of person, to
boyfriend number XYZ.
Yeah. To actually being like, I'm a helpful member of society and I have a relationship that means something. And, I do actually want to think about what I'm doing with my life and not just be the ditzy person. Like,
I can do a tracheotomy and fly this motherfucking ship into this black hole sail thing.
huh. I loved when she was the pen. Yeah. She was like, where do I get a tube from?
I was yelling at her, like,
Yeah.
I realized.
I was like, oh, I
20
wonder where.
seconds, like, the pen.
Yeah.
And there I was just stuck on, of course it's a fucking tracheotomy.
Look,
What a trope.
at least she didn't just like try and slice his neck open. Like, she had someone medical talking her through it. Like, the amount of times that you're watching a show and some like random person that doesn't have any medical training is just like, oh yeah, just put a slice
To
here
do
and
an
put a tube
emergency
in it.
trach.
Perfect.
So I was still thinking, you know, that Finn was staying behind. I'm like, no, he's sick. He's dying. She's going to have to leave him. He's not going to make it. That's it. He's done. Like, I
So, 'cause
still
if
have
he-
this thing
If
in my
he
head.
died before she went through, it would have reset.
Yeah, that's
And
why
I
she
was
didn't
like,
have time
yeah,
to
he
go
had
back,
to
yeah.
stay because he had to stay.
Yeah. Speaking of people I thought were dead, I was hopeful that Tyler was dead because nobody gets shot that much and has that much blood, and apparently it wakes up in the medical ward. I
mean,
I
to be
thought
fair,
that would have been kind of
it sounds like
good.
they have some pretty good medical tech. Like, they've given him a bionic eye, and he lost his gallbladder. One of the things.
Spleen.
Oh, I was annoyed by the bionic eye because I like Tyler in the future that wore an eye patch. I thought that was much better.
I love the line of they should have given you an eye patch.
Yeah.
I'm glad that he didn't die, just so we got that whole interaction of, really? You slept with her? How are you walking? Follow up of,
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I did limp
what
for
are
a
you,
while.
12? 12 out of 10? Yeah.
Yeah.
No.
He had some
Yeah.
zingers,
Yeah.
actually.
My favorite was, do you even own a bikini? Or do you even own a swimsuit? I suppose I could fashion one out of some skin of my enemies.
Leather.
Leather.
Oh,
That
Oh,
made it
dear.
worth it. That
Yeah.
line right there.
Yeah.
Oh, that was good. Yeah. I did think it was funny as well that the explosion of the weapon sent one of them, like one group forward in time and one back in time. Like, it kind of just went and sent them in opposite directions.
I did like that there was a reason for the way that they both moved through time. Like, obviously Scarlett and Co moved back in time because her necklace pulled them to that crystal where
Another point, yeah.
where it was from, and they were moved forward in time because Caesar, I don't know, that's his name now.
Aurora. He said Aurora did it that way.
No, he drove, she pushed. So she
Ah.
had the raw power, but he drove them somewhere. And that's why she was like, no, you can't kill him because he's the only one who knows how to drive us back. So she had the raw power to like get them there, but he had like the years of knowledge of using the power to know how to harness it.
I thought what had happened was she had tried to use the weapon, so she had blown them.
She
Out
tried
of
to use the
time.
weapon and then she pulled the power into herself. So all
Yeah.
the power was in her. And I think what happened was he used the power to push them forward because he wanted them to go forward to see what happened. That's why he was all smug with like, no, not what happened, where happened. Like, he was all real smug about it.
Yeah, he was
I
smart.
just thought he had realised first because he
No, I think he
is
was all smug.
more mature in his power. And then
Admittedly, I
she
would
had
be
kind
smug
of
too. I think it was stupid that they didn't figure it out.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sitting
Well,
there
they are
like, yeah,
18.
obviously he's about to say when to you.
Need more genre-savvy characters.
he was a dick though.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
What a dick.
Yeah.
Like, the whole entire time, I'm just like, can we just stab him already? I mean, I
Yeah,
know we need
right.
him to get back, but
We
like,
can't murder him. We need him to get back.
Yeah,
Oh,
I'm like, the
shit.
whole time she's like, no, we can't murder him. We need him to get back. I'm like, but do you really? Like,
Yeah.
Just take some
Can't
time.
you figure it out?
Yeah, you could figure it out.
You are in the different times, so getting back. Although they did pull it pretty close, didn't they?
Well,
Yeah.
like if you can control, like if you're already forward in time, why can you not control when you go back in time to?
Just go back a little bit further
Yeah,
and
like,
stop the
why
whole
are you
thing
coming
from
back
starting.
there? Like, why would you not come back? Because she knew that the Aurora Academy was going to explode.
Yeah,
So
she
why
came
would they
back
not?
at the wrong time, didn't she?
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like,
Yeah.
why would they not aim to come back before the
Before
Academy
the
was going
army
to
got
explode?
captured.
Yeah, and that's what really irked me. I'm like, but you made this whole song and dance about how you know the Academy is going to explode and you need to get back. But like then you come back at some random time. Like, how did you know that was the time they were like? Just
Wibbly wobbly.
I'm
Yeah.
gonna kill my dog.
I can't hear you, dog.
Oh, she's just like walking around.
Yeah, I can hear
Huffing
her.
and-
Oh, sorry. I thought there was whining because that's what I get. So
No whining, just huffing and puffing and looking
Yeah.
at me. So we've had a pretty good talk about most of the characters. I know a lot of us have said that we really liked sort of Scarlett's path
Poop.
throughout the whole 3 books. Who do you, other than obviously Cal, who I think we can all agree went backwards in his story arc, is there anyone else that you think really just either didn't go anywhere or went backwards in their story arc? Because like while I didn't love where Aurora ended at the end, I also feel like she did grow. She was just a lot younger. Like she was what, 16 compared to their sort of 18 years old kind of thing when they graduate school. So she's like
Can't
2 years
remember
younger
what-
than them. So she's obviously a lot more naive and like doesn't have that, like she hasn't been going to school to train to be a warrior. So like her development, while it isn't what, you know, what Scarlett's is still moving forward. Like her character is moving forward, even if it is at the expense of Cal.
I don't know. Her last chapter made me feel like I was moving backwards. So
Yeah, she talked a lot.
Yeah, she did. There was a lot of talk with not much substance, and that was what I rushed through actually, because I just felt like there was just it was just like, oh my god, like I need a good mix of plot and character, and it just feels like you were stretching out this plot line with a whole lot of like, I look for my beloved and he is over there and I'm wondering and I reach
he
out over
takes
here.
a step.
Yeah, I think they were trying to
God.
make it very like, because obviously she was, you know, using lots of power and, you know, had,
Yeah,
I
all
think
the
they were
stuff
trying to
about
make it like
power.
she had the Eshram in her. And
Like she
like,
was God filled with
Yeah.
a godlike power,
yeah.
which is
Yeah.
how
And I
she
did-
described it.
And
But
I'm
there
just
was
like,
Yeah, but there was a constant thing of going, and just when I think I could, you know, like, and I can't take any more, but suddenly then she can. There was a lot of that. Like
yeah,
it just,
like
yeah.
it did
It
go on a lot longer than it needed to.
and I think about what, and again, I'm going to say the time loop heist worked well because you had moments of action and then pause, and then action and then pause, and it felt like they were just trying to do all this action. And the pause reflection parts were just wasn't either at the right times or enough of them. They weren't doing any character development. I struggled a lot with that. And it really was the weakest part of the book. And as I said, I do need to give them grace because they tried to write this in a very tough time.
I mean, I do understand that, you know, trying to co-author a book when you can't actually meet up in person with the person you're writing with, I imagine is one of the most difficult jobs you can possibly do. Like, I can't imagine trying to author a book with someone else while being able to talk face to face, let alone trying to do it when you can't meet up at all, when you're stuck at home, when, you know, you've got young children and you've got like, there's lots of just stuff going on. I can't imagine that any of that made it easier But I do feel like, and I agree, Sarah, that I feel like that, especially that last chapter, really did struggle for it. I feel like that last chapter really did sort of not hit as well as the rest of not the rest of just this book, but the other 2 books as well. Like I feel like it did.
Yeah, and as I said before, it was there, it just wasn't threaded enough. Like, so, and then
yeah,
there was so many interesting things that where that last chapter could have gone, but it kind of, I just don't think they had the time to kind of reassess it and then look at it in relationship to the entire Cal Aurora storyline, and to the point that we talked about Cal being a bit of a wet blanket. Like I remember reading his chapters going, why does he even get chapters? Because none of this makes any.
There are 38 chapters in the book. 6 of them are Cal.
Yeah,
and I thought they were all pointless. Every single one of them.
6 of them are Cal.
The most memorable thing I have of Cal is that fight scene, and I think it was not even from his point of view.
No, I don't think it was.
I'm pretty sure I remember Aurora saying that she saw him pull the blades and that she was watching him, and then
I'm pretty sure it was an Aurora. Or
there was like Aurora a part of that fight was from his point of view, but it was him realizing that the girl was his niece, right? Not anything. And even that felt kind of like, I don't know, kind of like muffled under everything.
It's funny because I was going to say I feel like all of his chapters were just describing what Aurora was doing.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like I was like, oh, and all I know she's doing is going. That's all she's doing.
Love that demonstration.
Forgot
Thanks,
that, like,
Sarah.
there's blood dripping out of her nose and out of
her
for you.
Sorry. I did enjoy, like, as much as we're bitching about Cal and Aurora, I really enjoyed Zila's arc. I thought it was really, really, really good. I also enjoyed, I think Finian had such a, I think, was it in book 2 where we got a real insight into what his home life had been like?
Yes.
I really liked that. And I felt there was a nice,
book 1 didn't really have any Finian was very just, he existed to exist in book 1.
Yeah.
But book 2 really had a lot more story for Finian.
Yeah, because he was the sarcastic kind of asshole, not wanting to be an asshole, but he put up walls, and then we kind of got insight into why as they started to break them down. And then in this one, I felt that there was a nice amalgamation of of what we understood and seen, and that he's putting all of that, like he'd grown, and we saw that in action. So I enjoyed it. I felt very consistent with what we'd seen in the first 2 books. And so I enjoyed his character very much. And like, he's still sarcastic, which I really enjoyed. And I liked the conflict with Mary and how that evolved. That was really nice, and how their names became nicknames, like, was it Bleachhead and Dirt Girl? It became affectionate by the end, and I love that. And so that was really, really nice, really well observed.
At the end, when he was like, yeah, she was great, except for that time when she incinerated me, or she shot me, or she did this.
Yeah, absolutely. It was good. And and Zila is probably, like, I remember her story in the book 2. Again, we found out more about her backstory, and that was heartbreaking. That's just heartbreaking. But again, that just her decisions were so consistent with what we'd understood. I think that's again why when we were like having that like, what the fuck happened to book 2 again, because I've forgotten kind of thing, like, that is why that storyline felt, I was like, oh, I'm remembering, and this feels like it's there, it's all there, the threads are there, I'm feeling the callbacks, I'm remembering what happened in book 2. Whereas I have to admit, even with Tyler, I don't really remember where we got to with him in book 2, and like what was happening, what he was going through. So that's why I really also like Zila, because that whole thing about saying, Oh, I'm gonna cry because that really moved me when she said, I didn't do anything and I lost my first family. I'm not gonna not do anything this time and lose my second one. Oh, that was it was so good.
Prologue. I cried at her messages in the prologue. I was like, oh, they're never gonna, and it's the last time we're gonna see it until we see the next one, and that's gonna be the
I'm back again. It all went well.
Oh my god, that was so good.
I have she got a statue.
Yes, I'm glad she got a statue in two. Although I did think Finian said it. Well, I was thinking, she's like, yeah, and she would have hated it.
Yeah.
Sorry, Karina.
I have one beef with Zilla, and it was nice that her gift was the earrings that became significant, like the hawk earrings, so that she knew that this person was important in what was going on in the time loop. But in the first two books, she consistently changed earrings that matched what was going on, and we never got an explanation as to how the fuck she was doing that. And I want
were they magic earrings? Did they change, or did it just did she get a bunch of earrings?
No, the earrings were hers. She just liked it wearing earrings that, matched.
No, but she was given earrings.
The scenario.
Yeah, and then she was given these specific pairs.
Right. So she had subtext earrings. She knew.
Yeah.
Nice.
She had subtext earrings throughout the first two books, and then her gift was the subtext earrings.
Nice.
Yeah.
But I want to know, how were you doing the earrings originally?
3D printing. Definitely.
Sorry, guys. I'm just going to go away for a second. 3D print some earrings that fit this scenario. I'll be right back.
Do you think that Zilla had information to make sure that book 1 and book 2 happened the way they were supposed to? Do you think that the Admiral had given her information to make sure that the things happen the way they should happen?
That would seem to be the implication, yeah.
And that would be how she had the earrings, because she knew what was going to happen. So she had the earrings with her.
Possibly.
I suppose that does sort of paint that suspicion that she could have foresight, when in actual fact she doesn't have foresight. She just went, back in time.
She literally just went back in time and then basically created the fucking school. So she had the power to give herself the information from the past about the future.
Believe they had that stuff locked up for so long and no one broke in to see what was in there, and they had this old tech that managed to keep everyone locked out for however long it was.
Especially with
and no one watched that hollow that they had and passed down for generations.
Zilla would have had the programming know-how to lock people out from people in her time.
Yeah, but she didn't have the hardware at that stage. She would have had to invent
she would have been
hardware.
able to write the programming. She had like she said in that last message, I've been able to do this for my whole life. It wasn't like she was sending updates as they happened. She stored them all for her whole entire life and then handed them on. This was something she spent her whole life putting together. It's not like anyone had that information until she died. And
she wasn't around for however long looking up. She did pass the knowledge down.
But she would have had the information of writing the software to protect it from 200 years in the future. Yes, the tech wasn't there, the hardware wasn't there, but the software, she would have written her own software to protect that information.
I still think that someone would have broken into it.
Look, I don't think you could
have how shit Magellan is.
Yeah. Look, I don't think you could really have teenagers taking on people in the world, but this is the taking on aliens and all that.
And it wasn't like people didn't know it was there. The commanders were so excited when they were told they could open echelon deck. They were like, "Yes, we finally get to reveal what this secret thing is."
And now we can use the room, because we ran out of room 100 years ago and had to do the extension on the West Wing, because that's how things work. Oh dear. Yeah.
Hilarious.
Oh dear.
Sometimes there's plot holes and sometimes the suspension of disbelief. Yeah.
And like being given a hollow from your great, however many greats they
I think it
were,
was like 5 greats, maybe.
I would be watching that if possible. Or someone in our family would have broken into it at some stage to be able to watch that. Like to have handed it down through generations. You'd be curious as hell.
Yeah.
You're like, you can have this, but you can't watch it. Like, yeah, bullshit.
Yeah. They haven't met a teenager with a steaming kettle in her.
Right?
Yeah.
Someone's going to figure it out.
Yeah. Yeah.
Probably young Zila.
And maybe that's what happened.
I mean, she did get the information from somewhere. Like,
subtext earrings.
Yeah. Oh dear.
Oh goodness. I was a bit sad about poor Admiral Adams. It's just like, and bye.
We're harmed.
Yeah, that was
and I
a bit
was
sad.
I don't like it's in that last chapter because what I thought she was discussing with the Raham was the release of people, like to understand you don't like that's where I thought it was going to go. And then it became very kind of someone described it like kind of dream-esque, spiritual, we became stars, which I have to admit I kind of went, are they stars or what? Like I don't know what's going on in the
There's
system,
already
people.
an Aurora star.
I'm very
Is
confused.
that how that happened?
No, yeah, I was very confused. So yeah, I don't know what happened there. I kind of like
Did
the idea
like
of
that it was Kat that pushed her out of there
yeah,
at the end.
and I thought, and I like that it was like there was a sacrifice, but then I also thought your whole relationship with Cal has been built on this thing that you have this connection that now you don't have. So that was the only other thing. I actually would have thought it would be fitting if she went with them and didn't come back.
Yeah.
But I did, like you said, I thought, okay, it is cool that Kat's pushed her out, but I kind of like that idea that it's like, oh, here's this guy I've met for 2 minutes, but there's my dad.
Half memories.
Just
That's
kind
partly
of
how you can tell it's a YA book because it's like, yeah, but dad doesn't matter as much as
Everybody lives.
say that,
What
but
was that?
like I feel like this series has done like a better job of dealing with the fated mate trope than most romance books do. So I thought that was actually one of the strengths of the series is that like it shows 3 cases where like of the fated mate sort of thing, and in all of the cases like these relationships form kind of unwillingly. And although you've got like the big dramatic Aurora and Cal relationship, and that works
The
out
bechamel sauce.
yeah, bechamel sauce, and that works out all right for them, but like that is like balanced against like what happened with Cal's parents. It sees like even though there is like this fated red string of fate drawing us together, it's not always a healthy thing. And it kind of still comes down to your individual choices. So I thought that was actually really well done.
And we sort of see that with Sadie and Tyler as well, because we know that
Exactly.
they hook up and have a kid, but they're not together in the future.
That's right.
And the way that they were together as well before she softened a little bit, you kind of saw a reflection of what her parents' relationship would have been like.
Yeah.
Like she kind of
Yeah.
reflected how her father was treating
what was
her
modeled.
mother.
Yeah.
And you can see her struggling
Yeah.
with the love, and obviously her father didn't give in to that until he did and exploded into whatever. And then but Sadie did, so that you kind of see that what happened with that relationship with the father and the mother there.
And even Tyler's reaction to finding out that that's what's going on, just his, oh, when did you notice that this was happening? Not his like immediate, oh, we're meant to be together bullshit.
Mhm.
I thought that was a really great scene, actually.
Yeah.
And because they have like the 3 different cases, it sets up some space for nuance. So
What's the third one for you, Elizabeth? So you mentioned
you've got
the
Aurora
parents.
and you've got Aurora and Cal. You've got Cal's parents, and then you've got Tyler and Sadie.
Right, from that family unit. Okay, right. Sorry.
But they're all
Gotcha.
Beshmels.
They're all Bechamels.
Are they all Bechamels?
Yeah, they're
Yes,
all
it's
Beshmels.
funny
That's
that
what I'm
the
talking
two
about.
Sibling groups
So
got
Tyler
together.
and Sadie are Bechamels? I
Yeah,
didn't
they're
know they were
Bechamels.
Bechamels.
That's,
Yeah,
that's what we're
scene
talking about.
where
Like,
Tyler realizes
I
that
might-
that's
I
what's
must
going
have
on.
skipped through that, but
you
sorry.
must have
Fine.
skimmed it. Yeah.
Sorry.
What was that,
Because
Karina?
I was just saying there is that scene where Tyler realizes that that's what's going on for Sadie, that she is feeling the pull.
right. I thought she just really wanted to bonk him.
No, that's what she meant. Like,
Impulse.
And I was like, you go, girl.
I mean, also that, but
So
Yeah.
the 2 sets of siblings got together as well.
what?
It's so
yeah. Finn got together with Scarlett.
Finn and
Scarlett got together with Finn.
Scarlett and Tyler and Sadie got
Sadie.
together. They're brother and sister opposites. So they're the twins. And then the Starslayer's kids.
Finn's
No,
not a
'cause
Starslayer's kid.
It's
Oh
Cal.
wait, no, it was Cal. I got them confused in the first trilogy, in the first 2 as well.
That's what I was really confused. I'm like, what are you talking about? That is
Okay,
Hey,
ignore me.
Both siblings didn't get together with each other, but all the siblings ended up in relationships. Is what I
I
think
mean,
you're going for.
everyone ended up in relationships.
Everyone ended up with
Cal and Aurora.
someone.
Right. Okay. Yeah. Ignore me.
Yeah.
Why did I think that?
So not a book for like people interested in asexual representation.
No.
Or just want to
As, you know.
explore themselves. But then this is, teenagers and YA, and they're
Yeah.
Hormones.
often quite keen on exploring relationships at that point before they realize that they, I actually have good on my own. This is nice.
One of the things about the ending that annoyed me was one of my favorite tropes to read about is the found family trope. And this
Mhm.
book did have that, but I felt like at the end it was really shoved down our throats, if not like it was like, this is our found family. And instead of showing us a found family, which like Becky Chambers' books are a good example, which have that, and they don't need to spell it out. You can you just get that.
Mhm.
And I felt like that in these books earlier on, that you kind of had that vibe. But then it felt like right at the end, it was like, just in case you haven't noticed, this is my family that I chose, and I'm going to write it clearly on the page just to make sure you
Yeah.
notice it. And it was like,
Yeah.
just in case
Yeah.
you missed it. This is my found family.
yes.
Yeah.
I was
Yeah.
like, I like the trope that like,
Yeah.
did you have
Because
to-
it is
so
and
not
it's a
tell?
and it's a trope with crews, right? Like a lot of my favorite sci-fi, both books, like we've read a couple of we've read like most Becky Chambers stuff, but I remember Queen's Night or something like that, where they wear mech suits, and that's like a found family crew. And then there was the other one that we read that was a bird that was the pilot. No, I get them all confused. Anyway, there's always like, and that works well because
Vance has it too.
yeah, you got different people, and the Serenity on, in Firefly, crews work really well because you've got different people with different outlooks on life and backgrounds and values, but they're all kind of working together towards a common cause. But that, it works really well. I think I liked it from Ziegler because I felt like it made sense. Like, as I said before, it made me cry where she talked about losing her first family. She wasn't going to have that happen with a second, and then she said, and it looks like I'll find my third. And I thought that was really beautiful because it also had that kind of thing of going, everything evolves, so I loved that. But the end part, like you said, it was a bit like like this is family. We must all sit around the dining table together in my mind and be connected.
I did like the part in Tyler's story as well, where it was kind of like it was almost a sliding doors kind of moment where he ran into the crew that would have been his if he hadn't slept in,
Yeah.
and ended up like, taking them over and, capturing them and single-handedly.
And I enjoyed that,
but
they could have done more with that. That was actually some of the stuff that I liked, but it was because someone mentioned it before, I can't remember who said it, where you got like him going through the plot as opposed to figuring it out. And that was this opportunity that I think they could have done more with those interactions, to like him going, I know the tank's like this and I know that. And then suddenly they were just all in the hole.
He's
but I'm like,
supposed to be the tactician who does that. But
and like,
kind of missed
maybe
it.
he was thinking about it, but we should have been getting that, him thinking about it when we're in his mind. If we're in his chapter where
or
he's
wondering why
narrating,
he's doing certain things, and then you kind of start to realize he's really, it's all
like,
big
it just-
tactics.
it felt like things were just happening in his
It did
chapter.
bring across the desperation of his situation where he didn't know what was going to happen. Like he really was just kind of like, I've got to get here. I don't know how it's going to happen, but I'm going to make it happen. And he kind of did. But that it just kind of felt like he went from, I have to get here, to next thing I'm suddenly on my way. Like, that's it.
Yeah. Oh, I've taken over the ship, and that was it. Like, I was like, gosh, that could,
that was quick.
I agree.
Yeah,
that was quick.
I think he thought that at one stage, literally, though, went, oh, that was easy, didn't he?
He like had this sort of thought of, I didn't realize he would sell me out so quickly or something like that. I'm like,
Oh yeah, that was good. I liked that. And the reporter, that whole bit was skimmed over so.
And the reporter was a really fun character, and then he was like, oh, he's dossing on his floor, and I'm like, are we not going to get the interaction of the dossing and like the hey my cat? Like, that would have been hilarious. I just So.
But also, like, Tyler's supposed to be the most wanted person in the world, in the universe at the moment,
and he was top of his class.
Doesn't know what he looks like. Like.
And wasn't he like top of his class, and he snuck into Aurora Academy? Like, no one recognized him for ages. Like,
I mean,
because he's missing an eye
through like tunnels and stuff. So I kind of get that, but like, I just mostly just like, how as a reporter do you not know who the like most wanted terrorist in all of the universe is at the moment? Like,
I thought he had recognized him at the bar, and that is why he'd approached him. And when Tyler saw the camera, I was like, oh, that's it. It's broken, the guy knows now. Tyler knows that he knows, and he was like, oh, that's not on, is it? And then it was done. And I'm like, oh, okay.
I did like the flirting of like, oh no, only if you're into that. Like,
we're into that.
I remembered something else. Sorry, that I know it's a YA thing, but the whole like, I don't know what you call it, but the poem, the mantra. We are Aurora, we are light, we burn into the night. Or something.
Oh my God,
it's so cheesy. I was like, how, like, talk about, when you were saying, Kirsten, about ramming the family thing, that was the thing that I was like, oh my God, like, you sound all like you've been brainwashed and drunk the Kool-Aid.
You know what it sounds like? It sounds like a war cry from like school sports day.
Yeah,
that's what I put your hands in the middle, let's go. Yeah.
But I was reflecting on today, I'm like going, lucky everyone speaks English then, because of course none of these other species, who have their own languages and rhymes and those, I don't know, maybe they wrote them all, but I was just like, oh my God.
but everyone at the academy speaks English, Terran, Like I know we're
Terran,
reading
okay.
it as English, but like
but I
wasn't
mean, like other people would
established.
have their own dialects and languages, and
Yeah.
I'm sure the
But,
motto
like,
wouldn't
everyone-
translate as wonderful.
everyone
Yeah.
everyone speaks that language.
Was
in-
established by Zila as well.
Oh.
And Kim, who's a Terran as well.
Although it's interesting that it's the same language, like they go back in time 200 years and they don't have any trouble like talking to one another. There's no dialect differences, like, you know, they just speak to one another and there's no difficulties. Like if we
Yes, but when they
went
went back
200
in time,
years,
The book. The book. What is that? It's a book. You don't have books.
if we went back
Mm.
200 years from where we are, I wouldn't be able to speak to Wizard like the language that we have. Like yes,
No,
there's a lot of-
you'd be. It depends
do fine.
where, but you would be fine. It'd be turn this 1817 to 1800s be the Regency era. If you're in the UK or in the, you'd be fine.
but there'd be a lot of dialect,
Mm.
like the way you
Yeah.
put like sentence structures, the way you put your words together is very different. Like
yeah, but they were in 2177. So I imagine that at that point we have our fusion language, like in Firefly, that everyone speaks.
Mm.
that's true.
Called Babelfish.
And they also are in a military.
Universal
They're-
translators.
Mm.
They're in a military, I guess, operation. Like they're in a part of the Aurora Academy, and they go back to what's essentially a military organization where I think a lot of that language and a lot of the things is maybe not 200 years old, but there's a lot of stuff that just stays the way it is for a long period of time. Like why they, for instance, all the ranks and stuff that we have today are all still holdovers from all those wars, you know, captains and you know, because the sea captains, even though they're, you know, on the land. That type of thing. Anyway, I just kind of, with the cheesiness of we are legion, we are light, burn bright into the night.
So lovely. All the love.
Oh dear.
So great. Love. I love you. You love me.
Love, we must
Everyone.
Oh,
And the Raham gives in because of love.
are
Because
we
love is
done
stronger
talking
than
about the
hate.
book?
I think we may be done talking about the book unless anyone else has anything else they would like to bring up before we sign out for the evening.
We still liked it. We liked it
Yeah.
a lot.
I was
Yeah,
just about
I
to
feel
say
like
that.
we've talked about the negatives, but I quite enjoyed it, and I read it in a
Yeah.
short amount of time.
Yes.
Well, like
Yeah.
I said, like I really enjoyed the time loop storyline, and while I didn't really like the last chapter with Aurora, like I really enjoy Cal. I know he was very much Captain Cardboard through this book, and just I'm the boyfriend person, but I still love him. He's still my Cal. Like there's still little like glimpses of him, like when they went into the future and he called Kyle a brother, and just like there were just
Yeah.
little glimpses of that person that he was in book one, and like so he's still
There was
there.
a moment in the fight scene where we saw Cal again.
Yes, yeah.
It was still good. It was still good. It was
Yeah,
still a good conclusion to the story, I suppose. A good conclusion to the crew, I think.
Yeah.
Maybe not so much the story. The Raham conclusion annoyed me, but the crew conclusion I thought was great.
I would agree with that.
Yes, I also agree.
Mhm.
I mean, to
Thank
be
you.
fair, like the whole Raham story, I feel like it was just a insert bad guy. Like I don't feel like we got really any information about them at any stage. Like they were a virus that was turning everyone into basically zombies. That was a hive mind. Like we don't really get any more information about them than that, like other than they're the bad guys. And I just feel like it could have been replaced with any sort of bad guy, and
They're the
story would have gone
Empire
along the same.
from and the First Order.
They're the Borg.
There you go. The Borg.
think they
That's probably a
created-
better analogy.
They created a bad guy so big that they didn't know how to conclude him properly. And I think that's kind of what let it down a little bit.
Mm.
Yeah, it just felt very like I could be any bad guy and you could just replace me with said bad guy and it wouldn't matter. Like, I mean, that's fine, but also like,
Anyway,
I like having
Okay.
bad guys with substance.
What are we reading next?
I don't
We are
actually know.
reading The Cat Who Saved Books by Sosuke Natsukawa,
Oh, that sounds cute.
which
it
I think
sounds
is
like
Kim's pick. I think.
Of course it is.
I was about to say,
really.
that sounds
You
like
don't say.
And how long have we got till that one? Is it 3 weeks?
That
Please say 3
is,
weeks.
hang on, it is on the 18th of November.
Oh, my birthday.
Ah,
On Xander's birthday.
the Cat Who Saved Books. I must have
To see
find
if
it.
any libraries have it. Probably not.
So we hope you will join us then.
Yes, I hope you all enjoyed it. Thank you so much for joining us, and we will see you next time.
Bye.
I'm waiting.